Republican Senator Mike Lee slamming President Obama over gun control. Now today, President Obama appearing with parents of the Newtown school shooting victims. The president calling on Americans to pressure Congress to approve his gun control measures. Senator Lee accusing President Obama of exploiting the Newtown tragedy. He is also joining fellow Republicans vowing to filibuster new gun restrictions. Senator Lee joins us. Nice to see you, sir.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
All right, I have a copy of the letter dated March 22nd with your signature on it, and Senator Rand Paul and Senator Ted Cruz telling Senator Harry Reid that you're going to filibuster gun control legislation. Are you still planning to do that?
Yes. You know, what we're insisting on, Greta, is a 60-vote margin. We think that any time Congress wants to take away the constitutionally protected rights of American citizens, it ought not do so for light or transient reasons. And it ought not do so with one party, the party in control of that body, just exercising its prerogative without any bipartisan support. That's why we think it's fair to demand a 60-vote threshold here, and that's what we've done.
All right. Is there any gun control legislation you could live with, or are you just simply a purist, absolutely, no gun control legislation?
Well, in theory, there's could be something out there. But what I'm saying is, based on what I've seen so far, based on what's gone through the Senate Judiciary Committee on which I sit, I haven't seen any bill that would solve this problem. And what I have seen is a lot of bills that would take away the rights of law-abiding Americans. We have to remember, Greta, that there are two groups of Americans out there. There's one group of people that will obey the law, predictably, almost regardless of what the law says. There's another group of people that's probably not going to obey the law regardless of what it says. We've got to look out for the interests of the majority of Americans who are law-abiding. And the proposals that I've seen moving through the Senate so far would do precisely that. They would restrict the rights of the law-abiding, and that's of great concern to me.
What proposals do you have?
Well, I think it's important for us to focus on getting mental health care providers to communicate with family members and police officials where necessary when they see somebody who's dangerous to, advise them, let's keep this person away from guns. Watch them carefully, and if they do something wrong, apprehend them, or in all events, make sure that their family helps them stay away from guns. But I don't have all the answers, but what I do know.
Can you legislate that? I'm trying to think. I mean, I'm trying to think even if that's something that could be legislated without having sort of, everybody in the country round up and, hauled off.
Right. And I don't know that you can legislate that. I certainly don't know that that's amenable to an act of Congress. But what I am saying is that the solution to a problem that arises when somebody breaks a law, or in the case of any one of these mass shooting incidents, 15 or 20 laws, the solution is not necessarily, let's go pass another law and let's pass a law through Congress, especially when, as is the case with these proposals moving through Congress, what you'd have is a law at the end of the day that would do far more to restrict the rights of law-abiding Americans than they would to actually reduce or eliminate gun violence in America.
All right, so I guess we'll go back to one of my original questions. Is there any proposal that the president is suggesting or that has gone through the Senate Judiciary Committee that you think you could live with, could vote for, or not, at least where it stands now?
Not one that is moving through the Judiciary Committee and headed toward the floor right now. Every one of these has a serious flaw in one way or another, in that it restricts far more activity of law-abiding Americans than it ever would restrict actual gun violence.
Well, it looks like you've had more to join this filibuster since that letter. The letter had you and Senator Cruz and Senator Rand Paul, and it now looks like Senator Marco Rubio is also joining you with a filibuster, and maybe even Senator Inhofe. I'm not sure if that's. I think that's a question mark. Do you know of any other senators who are going to join you?
I don't know of any other senators who are going to join me so far, but I welcome others to join us. I expect that this could become a bipartisan issue. I ran an amendment to the budget resolution last week, calling for a supermajority vote in Congress any time we're going to pass legislation that would restrict Second Amendment rights. And we got 50 senators who voted for it, only 49 voted against it, and among those 50 who voted for it, there were 6 Democrats.
So you think do you think you can get a Democratic senator to join you gentlemen on a filibuster of gun control legislation? You think that?
We would love to have them join us. Well, I'm not sure that any will, but what I am saying is it would be consistent with the vote that 6 Democratic senators cast last week. It'd also be consistent with the principle that anytime we're restricting a constitutionally protected right, we ought to make sure that there is broad bipartisan consensus for whatever we're doing. We certainly shouldn't undertake a restriction of constitutional rights casually. We shouldn't make it too easy, and that's what we're about doing here. Is making sure that we get a 60-vote margin, a 60-vote threshold on any legislation that would do that.
Senator, thank you for joining us, sir.